I'm talking about my macro bracket that I've built from parts from B&H. I know how frustrating it is to try to take macro pictures. You don't have enough light in natural situations, so you want to have some sort of flash setup. I prefer having two flashes, and when I looked at what was available commercially, I just wasn't happy with how much you had to pay and what you had to do piecing stuff together. So I decided to build my own, and this is the system I've come up with. I'm pretty happy with it. There's a couple things I would change, which I'll go over in a little bit. But basically, I have my camera with my macro lens, and I have flashes that are on flexible stocks that I can adjust any way I want. It's comfortable to hold. I've got a handle here, another hand here, and when you're taking pictures, both of these legs on the tripod you can put right into your chest, and it's very comfortable to handhold, and you can take your pictures at whatever you want, f11, f16 if you want, to get that depth of field that you need. And you have two flashes here that you can adjust independently, and you get pretty nice macro pictures. I am not an expert in macro. I'm not an expert in filming. This is just my amateur solution, and this is how I did it. Later in this video, I will have a list of all the parts that were purchased to make this. Basically, quickly on the bottom, there's a very sturdy metal tripod, tabletop tripod. I've used a Ciru head, which has about a 35 or 40 pound capacity. You can use whatever ball head you want, or conceivably not even use a ball head in here. But the nice thing about having a ball head is it allows you to adjust the tilt of the camera. So when you're laying on your belly out there trying to take pictures, it's nice to be able to set the tripod on the ground and then actually have the tripod set up so that you can move it and point it wherever you want while you're still sitting on the tripod. That feature I really like on it. On top of the ball head is a 250 millimeter plate here. The plate allows you to attach a flexible stock here and a flexible stock here, which you attach your flashes to. And then with the flashes on there, you have complete adjustability on where you point your flashes. These goosenecks are fairly flexible, but the good thing about them is wherever you put them, they just stay. And because this camera is mounted on this rail here, loosen that up, and you can slide the camera forward or backwards to get it in the right relationship to the flashes. Some of the features I really like on it are that it's on a tabletop tripod. This is a fairly heavy setup here, and at times you want to just set it down. There'll be times you'll be laying on your belly taking pictures of bugs and flowers, and it's nice just to be able to set it down. The other thing is, if you release it here, you can just take this and attach it to a tripod. So if you have your tripod set up with the same setup as this ball head, anytime you want, you can just go set this onto a tripod and use it like that instead of on this. One of the things I would change is this is a fairly short metal grip right here. I'm going to change this to a more comfortable rubber or plastic one with finger grips in it that's also a little bit longer. This is a fairly heavy setup. It'd be nice for my hand to be a little bit more comfortable here on this front hand grip. But it's really a sturdy setup to be able to have your hand down here and this hand right here, and you feel like you can do whatever you want with it. I've cranked up the exposure compensation a little bit to try to get everything's black here, so it's hard to see the details. So if it's overexposed, that's on purpose here. Try to give you a little better angle of what you're looking at here. One of the other things that I didn't like in the way I designed this was each one of these stocks here has this piece, the gooseneck is 3, and then 2 adapters in here in order to get it to go through the hole and be able to attach it on the bottom. And on the bottom, I just went to the hardware store and bought screws to go in here, and that's kind of a crappy look. It's not real elegant. So there must be some way, some better system that you don't have to have 5 separate parts in this gooseneck in order to attach it to this and have a cold shoe right here for the flash. That and the handle are the 2 things I would probably change right now. I don't know how well this is going to work here, but this is the spreadsheet that I made for all the parts. These parts right here are the arm. There's 2 of each because there's 2 arms. And then everything down here in this bottom section from here to here is the base. The total for everything was $299.38. The total weight for everything, advertised weights, was 1924 grams, or about 69 ounces. So it's fairly heavy. The one thing that I said I would change was this Revo 3.5-inch hand grip. I'd probably replace that. There's some plastic hand grips or rubber hand grips that are made that are not much more expensive than that. They're in the $9 to $15 range depending on where you buy them. I would put that on there. And then Arca Swiss is what I was stumbling for words earlier. All the clamps on here are the Arca Swiss standard. So if your tripod's Arca Swiss, you can just transfer that right over to an Arca Swiss tripod. Just a couple other things that I may not have discussed in the video. This 250 millimeter plate that the goosenecks go into, I believe I had to drill these holes bigger. So they're aluminum, so they're easy to drill, but you probably will need a drill, if you're going to do them accurately, a drill press to enlarge the holes for these adapters to go down through the plate. The other thing you may want to consider is my ball came with a plate, an adapter plate that was Arca Swiss. You are going to need an Arca Swiss plate on the bottom of your camera to attach it right here. So if you buy a ball head, it should come with the plate, but you may need that. And then the last thing is, of course, you had to go to the hardware store to buy screws to screw into the bottom of this last adapter that goes through this plate here. So my parts list does not include those things. The screws you'll definitely need. The Arca Swiss plate you probably included with the ball head that you have, and you'll need to drill holes in the plate. So my conclusion after doing all this is I'm very satisfied with what I've made here. It's a very stable platform. It's adaptable with the camera being able to slide forward and backwards. The flashes being able to position any way you want. If you want them on the sides down low, you can do that. If you want them over the top, you can do that. The fact that you can set it down on the ground while you're laying on your stomach looking at things on the ground, I think is wonderful. I like the fact that when you get it set up with these 2 legs towards the back, it goes right into your chest and it stabilizes everything. I like the fact that I can remove this off from the tripod and take it and put it onto another tripod up in the air. So if I was taking like flower pictures in a bush that's fairly high or a tree, I can mount this to an Arca Swiss tripod. So I find it very flexible, very adaptable. I love the fact that now I can take pictures at f/16 with these 2 moderately priced and powered flashes. I'm rarely taking over 1/16 or maybe 1/8 at the most power on them. Just a really nice system. Costs about $300. It's easy to put together. I've got the list of all the parts. Usually when I operate this, I'm hardwiring this to the camera as the master, and then this is an optical slave that just fires when it sees the light from the other one. I have a one of these for it, but as it turns out, they're not very reliable when the flash is inside of a foot of them. Sometimes they don't pick up the signal. which is kind of weird. They're too close to the flash, so I find it much more dependable just to use a cord, and that way I know this flash is going to flash every time. And the slave flash almost always picks up the flash of light and flashes itself. The controls are right here, so I can manually adjust them up or down. You know, I can have this one at fairly high power and this one at a more moderate power so that you get some modeling light from the side on your macro shots. Very flexible system. I highly recommend it.